Evening. Evening, Ash.
You all right, mate?
We have a guest. He's here for me. Oh, it's this side.
Yes.
This side for me. He's here.
Yeah.
This is Sean Wilson.
Oh, hello.
Hello. Okay. Well, people might recognise his face from Coronation Street, where he played the wonderful Martin Platt for many years, actually. Then came back as well, didn't you? You came back for a revisit, but then left Coronation Street to go and make cheese as a master cheesemaker, with the absolute amazing achievement of winning awards that are normally only given to French cheeses, which actually goes to show the quality of the cheese. He's also a painter. He's also a poet. So please, big welcome to Sean Wilson.
Oh, yeah. Good evening, guys. And really, thanks for asking me along. I mean, Colin, you and I have been swapping little bits of poetry and having a giggle and things. And it's nice to be invited in this kind of environment.
Well, I'm on, as Ash will tell you, I seek out poets. I'm terrible for, and particularly ones that have a talent for putting humour into poetry as well, which is how I met Ash.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, Ash is very, very funny poet and quite disgusting with it. In fact, Ash writes filth. That's the only way I can describe it.
Well, there's your legacy, Ash.
Yeah, Sean, I'll send you a copy of my filth.
So what's the name of your poetry book, Ash?
Old People, Sex and Other Offensive Poems.
Hey.
There you go. Perfect for it.
It's like a Bukowski book.
More Bukaki than Bukowski.
I was going to say more Bukaki.
I don't normally get fed lines like that. Brilliant. Thank you.
No, not this early on. Brilliant. Right. Okay. Well, let's. Ash, please tell us. What have we been reading this week?
Right. What we've been reading. I've been reading by Philip K. Dick. The Eyes Have It.
The eyes. The eyes have it.
The eyes. Yeah. The eyes have definitely got it. Yeah. In the eyes have it. This is going to be a long fucking night. Right, so in The Eyes Have It, a guy is reading a book and he discovers that aliens have invaded our planet. And he discovers that because of what's written within the text. And what's written within the text is, I think the first part he mentions is when somebody's eyes are roaming around the room. And then there's a brilliant part where somebody puts their arm around a woman and she asks him to remove it. And this reader doesn't know what happens to the removed arm. And because he's identified this alien species where they can detach parts of their bodies, he becomes quite upset and anxious. And the story ends quite abruptly when he says he's not got the stomach to carry on with it. But I think it's just such a clever piece of writing. It made me smile all the way through. It's the thing that I love about that particular story. Did you guys like it, or did I just sort of throw shit one at you?
Well, I grimaced quite a lot, Ash, to be fair. It kind of reminded me of the Mr. Man series.
Right.
Mr. Topsy Turvy, who was just you followed him through the day with his topsy-turviness, and it seemed to me that maybe at the time I was thinking this is probably for like a O-level or students or students, but clearly I'm wrong.
No, I can take what you're saying there on board, because it's something that I think I want my students to read. I want all of my students to read it, just because whenever I'm reading a piece of fiction and somebody's eyes, his eyes went up and down her skin, it's just a case, to my mind, I'm thinking, and it's that sort of taking me completely out of the moment. And I loved it because it was taking me out of the moment, but then going on to that next level of, but it's aliens. But I completely get the Roger Hargreaves reference, yeah.
It made me think of that.
It's quite fun. I get what you're saying from that, because of the way it plods along. Actually, the way the story just continues to plod along and gets more and more and more. It really does have that mystery feel.
It's very similar to that style, isn't it?
Yeah. To me, when I was listening to it, because I do the read and the listen, and to me, I was listening to Ronnie Barker sketches, and there was another one which was on Channel 4, Sledgehammer on Network 7. back in the, I think, sort of the late 80s, and that was an animated thing. And they used to do that. She rolled her eyes at me. I rolled them back. And that was all that kind of film noir or noir fiction mocking it, because it was always full of it, wasn't it?
Yeah, yeah. And it made me think a little bit of the bizarreness of Kenny Everett.
Yes.
You know, he could do something like that, you know, and the next minute there's a big eyeball being rolled around.
I've been watching reruns of his video show, the one that started in the 70s. It's on Channel 7 at the minute.
Yeah. I watched the rerun last week. It was a bit shit.
But some of it, I tell you what, I like putting myself in the time. I was watching it thinking, my God, this was like 1978 when he was doing that. It was very ahead of his time. But yeah, it was a bit shit.
I just couldn't put myself in the time.
Yeah. Yeah. For now, it's rubbish. Oh, terrible stuff for now. Terrible
Thank
stuff.
God
I get what you mean, because they've been reshowing Benny Hill stuff on one channel. It's practically just a Benny Hill channel. I think it's on from about 9 a.m. till midnight. And I thought, I've heard lots of people complaining about this. I'm going to sit down because I remember Benny Hill as being very, very funny. And what the fuck was I on to think it was very, very funny? It's just, it's almost like watching your granddad sort of like feeling up someone. You just think, Granddad, no, don't. That's just
now. If they had a Dick Emery channel, I'd be there every day.
Yes, every day. Yes,
I see.
Love Dick Emery.
Yeah, no, I always Dick Emery, funnily enough, was one of the ones that never really did it for me when I was younger.
Well,
I thought it was awful, but I liked him.
Yeah, very good.
I actually met Dick Emery when I was about 10 or 12. Went backstage to meet him because my dad was working on that particular show, and introduced me to him and said, "Oh, Ashley, what an interesting name." And then, fuck me, if 6 months later he doesn't have a character called Ashley who's some sort of slimy butler on his show. And I just thought, wow.
Well, you got a lucky one, because I think a week after that show was on, it was the Jimmy Savile show. So you dodged the bullet there, Ash.
Yeah, definitely a bullet that I dodged. Yeah.
Anyway, let's get back to this story.
Let's get back to the story.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Right.
Sorry, we're talking Dick, aren't we? Yes.
Yes.
Philip K. Dick. Yeah.
Oh, dear, we're such children. We really are. Yes, absolutely. I tell you what, I had fun when I was reading it, of imagining that it was actually an alien that was reading it about humans, rather than it being the other way around. I kind of just had this idea of this tentacled jelly creature.
I'll see, that'd be more interesting.
Just getting completely out. Oh my God, have you seen what these humans can do? You know?
Yeah, that's better.
Yes, I like the sound of that.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, because I mean, this is sort of like moving us into the territory of, well, we're all aliens and each one's the other, and we're going to get sort of like post-colonialism.
Post-colonial reading of The Eyes Have It.
Yeah, which I definitely don't want to do that, because I've got. What I was thinking when I was reading this was, what part of my anatomy would I like to be able to detach?
Have you seen Big Mouth on Netflix?
Yes, I have.
Hey, suggesting your mouth, Ash. Fantastic.
Guys, what would you detach if you could?
Oh.
Well, do you want me to go first?
There's the classic, isn't there? There's the classic. You can detach one of your hands and then it feels like somebody else is doing it. I don't know. I quite like things being attached to myself.
I would detach my arse. I would sort of like take it into the office, sit it on a chair, and then I could do whatever the hell I want. And people would sort of like say, "Why would you? What? My arse was on that chair all fucking day." Yeah. It would just be the perfect way of being there all the time.
Yeah, and so you could park your bike in it.
That'd be quite an interesting ornament, wouldn't it? To have park your bike in just outside.
Yeah, it would be.
Could use it as an ashtray, maybe.
I don't know.
You need to wipe that from your brain.
There you go.
So my secretary will get that.
Oh, have you got things going on? Hang on.
No.
We'll put a test card in.
No.
All right. Oh, okay, we're fine with that one.
Yes. Yeah. Fine. Test card if you want, but no. Sorry.
Just put one in anyway, just as a random thing. Yeah, I don't know. Detaching. I didn't. It was one of those kind of things because all I could hear was the wordplay. I never once thought about things actually. Like I say, I thought of this idea of an alien going, "My God, have you seen what humans can do?" Because I love the idea that the reader was getting exasperated at all this. He was losing his mind at the idea that all these things could come off. You know?
I mean, again, one of the things that I think fits in with the time of it as well is the fact that he's getting so irate and so frustrated. And we've got sort of like echoes of R11's invasion of the Body Snatchers. Was that R11 or was that Jack? What's his face? Anyway, yeah, we've got echoes of invasions of the Body Snatchers with one person sort of like seeing this communist invasion of an alien source coming in. But it's being played for comedy value, which, again, I like the way it's trusting the reader, because sometimes when I'm writing, I don't trust readers. I need to sort of like underline things and put arrows there and stuff like that. And this is the fucking funny part. Look at the You get what I mean? Am I being stupid there, or?
No, you're not actually. And you have. Well, I do write very much as if I'm the reader.
Yeah.
To try and bridge that gap before we even go anywhere.
And yeah, I think that whole unreliable narrator thing is something that's kind of important for the way we enjoy stories. I was talking to somebody about monologues today, and we were talking about how you could almost look at Edgar Allan Poe's Telltale Heart as a monologue, just because you've got an unreliable narrator there who we know from the start is a little bit mental, but we're having fun with this little bit mental bloke as we think nobody's eye can really be that dodgy that you just think, I'm going to kill that bastard. Nobody's got one of those eyes at all. Yet this guy has, and we follow his story, and we're even sort of like there thinking, oh yeah, I bet you can hear that heart of a dead man that's beating beneath the floorboards. It's just great the way an unreliable narrator can get you so convinced and compelled in a story.
Yeah. And wouldn't it be interesting that, and I guess it wouldn't happen often, but it would be a golden moment if somebody was to perform one of your poems,
right?
But to do it better than you intended.
Yeah, that would be horrible. Yeah.
Why?
But that's already happened, Ash. You just weren't in the room when it happened. That was all.
I'm always in the room.
No, you weren't.
Yeah, but wouldn't it be interesting? Somebody, I don't know, it could be anybody, but they just deliver it in a way you're like, wow, that was like double amazing. Love it.
Yeah, you're right. Somebody sort of like pulling something out of it that you hadn't seen there before.
Yeah.
Because I've just been listening to Tim Brooke Taylor sing, the late Tim Brooke Taylor, singing "Girlfriend in a Coma," but to the tune of "Tiptoe Through the Tulips." And "Girlfriend in a Coma" has never sounded as good as when it's been sung to that particular tune.
Wow.
Good.
I mean, it's like me. I'm a massive fan of William Shatner's Common People. I think it's. I actually think William Shatner's Common People. I think it's better than Pulp.
That's the new one on me.
Oh, it's brilliant. He acts it. It's just great.
Is it YouTube?
Yes.
It's one of his albums. It's one because he records albums of hits where he just basically just acts them out. But it's one of the best ones I've heard.
How's that passing me by?
I'll send you a link.
Yes, send it to me. I'd love to see it. Oh, great. How was it fun?
That's definitely worth listening to. That's probably the best version of it. Apart from when maybe Stewie did it on Family Guy.
Yes, Stewie did a good version of that on Family Guy.
But no, I think Shatner's got the edge on that. So I picked an incredibly short one because I'm thick like that, really. But yeah, that one made me smile. But yeah, Sean, it didn't work for you then. You were thinking they've given me a fucking Mr. Men story here.
Yeah, to be honest with you, yeah. But I was coming at it with 2020 vision, and as if it was like in the now. And of course, that was my mistake to begin with. Really, I should have been a little more open-minded. But
in a funny sort of way, you were kind of making the mistake that the reader in the story is making, isn't it? Because the reader in the story is just being overly literal in everything he's reading, and I never thought of it before, actually, Ash, until you just mentioned it there, in a very McCarthyist way, because it is that kind of like looking for bad stuff to happen. You know, it's like, for example, I'm a Manchester City fan, so I spend most of my time looking at the media, seeing how they hate us, and just finding every last little bit and saying this is why they, and all that kind of stuff. And it reads a little bit like that, and which is what the McCarthyism was doing. They were looking for the red under the bed in everything that was written.
Oh, I see. Right. Yeah. Well, I guess I can see exactly where you're coming from.
Yeah, it's a weird sort of thing, isn't it, when you look at that? But if you look at this story too literally, it's a Mr. Men story, like you say.
It's a Mr. Men story. No, it is. No, definitely it is, because it doesn't set you up well enough for me. He's on a bus. He finds a book. The next minute, he's at home. And he's reading through it. It doesn't lead you down the garden path enough for me.
No, that's cool.
As a reader, then, Sean, is that what you like? Do you like lots of exposition? Oh, Greg, I'm already sounding pissed.
Are you trying to say exposition?
I was trying to, yeah. I was giving up on it fucking quickly, though. Yeah, do you like lots of exposition? Do you like lots of setup and lots of introduction to characters?
No, but I mean, I guess with my background, that things need to be explained, of course, and especially in the genre that I was working in. And so, of course, if it's not explained, i.e. in this story, you just have to jump on the train and enjoy the ride. Then, of course, even if I was writing something like that, I would just leave a little bits of levity in there just to set you up for what's about to come.
Yeah, I think that's so important in writing, that, levity, humour. We need sort of like some level of humour, because all of life is about humour, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
but
if we're not having a laugh.
In this particular story, just a few, like half a spoon of sugar. That's all it is.
Yeah.
And it's not like he didn't have the room, because it's an incredibly efficient story in the length of it. So he definitely had the room to build in more of the character that's reading it. You know very little about the person who's actually doing the reading.
Absolutely. Yeah. And then, of course, he's on a bus, so he's just like me and you. He picks up a book, just like me and you, takes it home. So there's no perception of what he thinks about life and what he, like I say, there's just no inkling
where the madness is coming from.
Yeah.
I see what you mean.
I'm going to argue with that one. First of all, he's on a bus. That's not like you and me. He's a bus wanker, all right? We wouldn't do, all right? We're decent people. We don't ride on fucking buses. Secondly, picks up a book. Well, you see one nowadays and you just think that's fucking dripping with COVID germs. Not going to touch that with a shitty stick.
Now we're taking it too literally.
But does this make him sort of like more of an everyman? That he's sort of like doing things that we would have been doing? That he's sort of like riding...
Yeah, exactly. But he's not an everyman, is he?
Well,
1953 it was published, wasn't it?
Yes.
This is 1953 America that I think we're talking about. I mean, his wife and his child are playing Monopoly in the kitchen, right? Which you sort of like get a little bit later on. And I was thinking, only two people playing Monopoly in the kitchen. They must have been there for weeks playing that one game. Is this why he's gone mad? Because they're just playing Monopoly that's all he does is he walks in and playing Monopoly. It's like a Twilight Zone, isn't it? Really?
See, there's a bit of levity. I like that. They're always playing Monopoly. We're going into Monty Python now, aren't we?
Maybe there should be more Monopoly. Maybe that's what. Yeah. Maybe he should have actually sort of visited his wife a couple of times, and they were always playing. I'm beginning to agree with you on that one, actually. And looking at this as a story, I think having more of his life in the background of what was going on, would have informed the way he was reading it a bit. And there's plenty of room to be able to do that, and it wouldn't have taken much to do.
No.
No, we're saying it wouldn't take him much to do, but if we think about just that, if we try and get him going into the family where they play Monopoly, we've already got sort of like the discordance of people's eyes are moving and this is being detached and that's being detached. If he goes in and says, my wife's a shoe and my son's an iron, you know, it's like, what the fuck has happened within this story? Well, yeah.
Well, if it'd been set, set in London in the 1950s, his son being an iron would have been quite a controversial thing.
No, not just any old iron.
Oh, here we
go. What's an iron in rhyming slang?
Iron oof, poof.
Oh, right.
So someone who was an iron was someone who was homosexual back then.
Every day's a school day, right? Yeah.
There you go.
I didn't know that.
There were some advantages to living down south.
Yeah, so that was one of them. You said some as though it's plural.
Yeah, price of beer definitely wasn't one of them growing up.
No,
but yeah, I know. I get, but I do get that idea because there is room in it to do it, and you would be able to have that. I think you could do it in a really nice way, and Philip K. Dick would have been able to do it. His skills as a writer are definitely sort of like able to play with things, and almost where you're crossing the boundaries, where you're not quite sure what is his life and what is the book anymore. You could could do that quite easily with that story.
Yeah, but also, you know, I'm kind of you're making me look at it a bit differently now. If it were like a what's the guy called? Oh, the French comedy actor, the mime artist.
Oh,
Marcel Marceau.
Marceau, yes.
No. In films. Oh, what's his name? He did the. I can't remember his name.
He tell you what, not being able to remember names like that, he's fitting in right here, isn't he, Ash?
Yeah. Yeah. Especially with the sexual grunts as well.
Jacques Tati. Jacques Tati.
Right.
Right. Yes.
So if I'm seeing it as a Jacques Tati film, he would be, let's say, so you're going visual now. You're not going, with literature. But he would, although there's nothing being said, Jacques Tati would have that little. He'd have there'd be something visual going on, which of course the author here doesn't have a chance to, or doesn't take the chance to. You can't do that. It only works visually. Then as the viewer, that you're watching quite an interesting person, maybe an everyday person, but he's just a little bit. Not quite wired up the same, if you know what I mean. And then there's your clue. And then, of course, when it opens into the rest of the bulk of the story, you know why.
Yeah, I think you're right about it being visual as well, because the majority of the metaphors, he's interpreting the metaphors visually. So when sort of like somebody's brainless, somebody's lost their head, somebody's given away their heart, we're seeing all these things in visual terms. Yeah, absolutely right. Right, Jacques Tati, got to watch some of his fucking stuff as well now. The list just gets longer.
The Holiday is a great film.
Oh, I mean, I'm just sort of like thinking of using this fucking story for critical discourse analysis as well, and getting students to pick pieces out of it.
I think you can because of that reason. I think because it's like if you were going to make a film of this in any kind of way, you'd either do it as, like I was saying before about an alien, as an animation of an alien losing his mind because of what humans do.
Yeah,
or you would do it in amongst other things. So like Falling Down, for example, which I always thought was because they made him already having mental illness problems. It weakened it slightly. He should have just been a man who just lost it completely with society at that moment in time.
Okay.
But you would have that story going on between the other stuff, wouldn't you? You'd have it as one of the links into why he was losing the grip. Like, I suppose like Taxi Driver or Joker, recently. That you'd use him reading this story constantly going, and he's taken his arms off now, to add those bits of character.
Yeah, it needed the description of Hemingway. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
He can describe just the sinew in your neck.
You know, I was listening to Anthony Jeselnik the other day talking about Hemingway, and he said Hemingway wrote his favourite story ever because it was only 6 words long and it had a dead baby in it. And I just thought...
Oh, there's no need. You know, I don't know. I'm going through a series of just trying to read some Hemingways and make some sense of it. And you know what? I feel a bit sorry for the man. I really do. Because I feel that, well, nobody had sold as many books since Mark Twain.
Right.
So the man was like globally very, very famous and just hit the right note at the right time. And of course, he was also in his own life, he was pushing himself to all kinds of boundaries because he was an adventurous man. Yeah.
Is adventurous man a euphemism there?
Well, I don't know. This is the way I read it. He's just an adventurous man. He just wants to get out, do stuff, and he can. So
yeah, no, I mean, my only reason for asking that was I'd read a story about how if he had a male visitor at his house, he would suggest that they take off their shirts and wrestle. And I was thinking, do you mean adventurous in that way? I mean, yeah.
I've known a few mad artists that will probably do the same.
Yeah, but I could admit, if I went round to Col's and he sort of like said, get your shirt off and wrestle, I would say, look, fuck off, Col. All right,
it's why he doesn't come round, to be honest.
Yeah,
but we're talking 1926, I guess, around that time.
Oh, right, yeah, well, when it was acceptable to wrestle blokes without your shirt on.
No, but I mean, I don't think the world was the same as it is. No, I don't know.
I know. I think, to be honest with you, I think Brian Blessed would probably give you a bit of a wrestle if you went round his house for some
or
something like that.
But I just feel that in time that certainly the media, the literature media, were I think they was jealous of him.
Yeah,
I think there's big jealousy, and the way that they slagged him off for that book that he wrote, that was like the world was against him, and it's like, what? I mean, okay, so the guy's written a book that is maybe, in their opinion, not as good as the other books, but you can't trash something. They trashed it because they were jealous of it.
Which book was it?
I can't remember now. I can't remember the name of it.
If only I had a device where I could look up things. Hang on.
I think it was written around 1952 or something like that, if I'm not mistaken. It was one of his latest.
Was it?
Oh my God! It was multilaterally slagged off.
Wow.
And I felt sorry for the man.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose my real issue with Hemingway is, as you say, incredibly adventurous, and he sort of like goes out and does all these things. But was there any real need for him to go out bullfighting? You know, that's just sort of like cruelty. And you're going to throw it was that time period at me thing again, aren't you?
Yeah, I am.
Right. So and I can't argue it was that time period. But he just sort of like, in retrospect, it's like, ask Colin what he thinks about pedos.
Well, I mean, it's a very tricky one to answer sometimes about that, you know, because it's not. You've got so many different facets to kind of go into that one. You're better off.
What do you
think
about Lewis Carroll, Colin?
A different entertainer, for example. I'm a massive David Bowie fan, for example. But
Colin, what do you think of Lewis Carroll?
What do I think of Lewis Carroll? There you go. I knew it was going there. I was just trying to avoid it. I love Lewis Carroll's writing. I think the writing is superb. But, you know...
Well, it's a nonsense love letter to his victim.
No, this is the whole thing. Alice wasn't his victim. It was the sister.
Sorry.
It's
a nonsense love letter to his victim.
And of its time, the sister was 14 years old and at the time was actually legal to be married. So there were, you know, yes, there's definitely nonsurama going on, but... At the time, it was actually, you know, yes, all right, he was like a very, very old man lusting after a very, very young girl. But at the time, it was of the legal standing. And that's the same argument that I know Prince Andrew's going to use, but that's not the point.
One of his hobbies was photographing prepubescent schoolgirls when they were naked. Well,
and again, that's not been, let's you know, you're a lecturer, you want evidence within your essays, and the evidence isn't quite...
So I've seen, I mean, I've not got them on my hard drive anymore, but I've seen some of these photographs that he'd taken.
Taken.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, he wasn't doing selfies. We sort of like, yeah.
Well, I see what you mean in terms of you're looking back.
It's like that.
You know, when you're looking back at a literal, thing, and actually, I think what you're saying, Sean, is, and I'm going to agree with Sean on this side of things. At the time when he was ripped to pieces, he was famous. He was a very, very famous writer.
Oh, globally famous.
And so it's not like now when we look back. Like you say, we look back at Lewis Carroll now, and we look back at things that like Michael Jackson did or Gary Glitter did, and it's you start seeing the undercurrents that are either unsavory or crazy or whatever way you want to look at it. But at the time, you cannot take away, at the time, he was a literary genius that was absolutely ripped to pieces because he didn't fit in with the literary set.
Absolutely.
It was going at the time.
Absolutely. And of course, I'm not coming at it from the, what would you say, psychologically disturbed angle. I'm coming at it from the fame angle.
Yeah.
He was just too famous and people didn't like it. It rubbed them up the wrong way. And to be fair, I can and do see in my own much more smaller life that the jealousy angle can really be punishing.
Yeah. Have you experienced that yourself? Sean,
because I've been on TV. Yeah, because I've been on TV and done what I've done. It can rub people up the wrong way, and does rub people up the wrong way. You're just being you, and you're just you. But some people go out of their way to play the long game sometimes.
Can I ask a question actually regarding this? Because out of the three of us, you are the most visually famous of all of us, without a doubt. People recognise you on the street. And they probably think that your name isn't even Sean half the time. When they come up, they go, "Hey, Martin," and all that kind of stuff, right?
That's okay.
Are you pleased, though? Are you pleased?
The dark side.
Are you kind of pleased you got out of that game before Twitter and Facebook came along?
I don't really give that much thought. I just know how damaging other people can be.
Yeah.
In the face of somebody's apparent big success. Yeah, and I know myself how that can be. So God knows how it must have felt to Hemingway. I mean, and of course, I'm just talking about my little life, but I mean, the literary world is a big world that needs to be that needs to be fed with what it wants to be fed, and when it's fed with something it's not wanting to be fed, they can be very vociferous and obviously very erudite about putting the words down that can tear a person apart.
Absolutely. I mean, we're seeing this with J.K. Rowling at the moment, aren't we?
Yeah.
Which I know I'm not going to go too controversial because, oh, fuck it, yeah, I am. But I think she's right. J.K. Rowling has sort of like, I think it started off from a tweet where she'd read a sentence where they were referring to people who menstruate. And she was sort of like making a point of, well, don't we call those people women if they're people who menstruate? And from there, she's had people sort of like say she's a transphobia and this sort of like, as you say, Sean, we've had all of the, it's not just been sort of like hate that's been directed at. There've been threats against her life. There've been sort of like people suggesting she should be raped. That way she'd know what it was like to suffer. There've been all of these hateful, abusive things. And although I've tried to look into it to find out what comments she's actually made, because my PhD's in creative writing, but I know a little bit about critical discourse analysis and understanding of language. So I sort of like read into, and I can't see the parts where she sort of like said, I hate people who are transsexual. If anything, she's been incredibly supportive. And as you say, you just have got the media that pounced on it with so much hate. And then at the start of this week, or was it the end of start of last week, you'd got them pouncing on the Jon Stewart story saying, oh, and all the goblins are anti-Semitic in this. And it's just, how much more shit are you going to try and pull onto this poor cow?
Absolutely. And there is a human being, not a piece of wood, at the other end.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know? And that's what I'm saying about Hemingway. You know, they tore him apart.
Yeah.
No. He also tore himself apart. But I would have said that would have been subsequently having... to me, the media were just pecking. Didn't
we see that tragic case with that woman from Love Island? Wasn't that just the same tragic case? I don't know her name because I'm not really up with that kind of Love Island. But she had issues with her boyfriend, and the press were absolutely, and she ended up committing suicide, or she suicided.
Oh God, yeah.
And that was and I seen it. It's like Little John, isn't it? Little John in the Mail. He's a nasty piece of work for stuff like that. There's these mouthpieces that just tear into people without any real evidence or knowledge or anything like that. And yeah, I think,
and also, we are really going away from the original subject, but I'm happy to do that. But,
we do all the time.
Going a little bit away from it. Fucking hell, it's not even in the same bloody time zone now.
Yeah, more than happy to do it, to be fair.
No, I think it's actually right. Because
fucking hell.
Ripping him apart. I mean, absolutely terrible. There's the violence that they've done, just tearing this guy into tiny little pieces.
Yeah. So I do. I'm at the moment. I'm at the point at the moment where I feel really sorry for Hemingway, and I think he was, he was punished for being different.
Right. My knowledge of Hemingway is, I'm not going to say limited. Yeah, I'll say limited. My knowledge of Hemingway is fairly limited. So do you think this contributed to, did he die of suicide? He did, didn't he?
Yes, he did in the end, yeah.
Do you think that contributed to it?
Yes.
And this was just because, I mean, with J.K. Rowling, she's sort of like getting all this crap thrown at her at the moment because of some perceived anti-trans comments that she's made, or some interpretation of comments that can be sort of like seen as anti-trans. Was there anything in there where he sort of like upset a minority, or said something political, or sort of like said, "Oh, I don't like the hat on that politician"? Or
no, they were just always, and this goes back to what I suffer from occasionally. It's just peck, like you're a red canary in a green canary cage, and they'll peck until something has to give.
Joe Brand said that, actually. When the whole Me Too thing came up, Joe Brand was hosting Have I Got News for You? And Ian Islop said just a slightly offhand, slightly sexist comment that, was kind of like what they call the everyday sexism type thing. And Joe Brand took him to task over it by going, look, what you're saying there in that is fine. So, but when you hear it 60 times a day, every single day of the week, that tiny little comment is no longer just a harmless little comment. It becomes this massive thing.
Yeah. And I just think that, that's where I am. And I guess that people will take me to task over it because I've not read all these books. I've just taken out of it what I've taken out of it up to now. But I have a stack of books there to go at. But I do kind of sorry for them, man. But hey.
Right, yeah, okay, Hemingway goes on the fucking list of more for me to read. Thanks for that, yeah.
Oh, didn't we read some Hemingway?
Say again?
Didn't we read a short Sam Hemingway story?
Yeah, you read Hills Like White Elephants, which is a story about two people thinking of an abortion but not mentioning it.
No, I meant in this. Didn't we have a Hemingway story as one of ours?
Oh, no. We haven't done, no. No, we haven't, no.
Oh. Right. But I'm sure we had one. I'm sure we had one on a list somewhere.
Right. But yeah, Hills with White Elephants, great use of dialogue in that. And great use of abortion as well.
That's what I know Hemingway for. His bloody dialogue is amazing.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
and of course, it's the multi levels are just awesome. I mean, it seems to come across just as chat, but then of course, when you step back from it, it's like, oh wow, that's really telling about the time, and it says more than it says.
Yeah. Well, that's the quality writer of that. Is the thing of quality writer. So the book that they really pulled apart was that Old Man of the Sea that they really pulled apart.
No, Carol, my partner, has just shown me, and I forgot now. True to the Last, or something like that.
True to the Last.
Yeah, something like that.
I shall write that down actually. And
I've got some of their T-shirts.
Great name for a band, isn't it? Actually, true to the last.
Yeah,
fabulous name for a band.
Please welcome.
Which I suppose we can sort of like wind that back to Philip K. Dick's story. So if we sort of like contrast Hemingway's concision with his writing with what we've got here, with Philip K. Dick, it's more a concision of character then, isn't it, rather than writing? It's not so much great description as, like the Jacques Tati slapstick.
Absolutely, I would say so.
Yeah,
just a bit of literal tomfoolery. It seems to come across to me. Just playing, just playing with words.
Yeah, but yeah.
Sorry,
Col.
I said to me it was Ronnie Barker.
Yeah,
it very much. I didn't get anything. I'd say it was interesting when you mentioned the idea of McCarthyism actually, and having it deliberately trying to find things within it, because all I heard initially was the wordplay, and going through all that kind of, all it was mocking the metaphors as opposed to really. I get what you're saying, Sean. I didn't get the character's motivation to be disturbed by it all, because I wasn't picking that up.
Well,
so you're saying it was more Ronnie Barker, and you were more expecting him to buy 4 candles than that he could sort of like stick his eyeballs on. Yeah,
or they say there's one that he does where the vicar there's Cockney rhyming slang, but gets all Cockney rhyming slang wrong, Or one of my favourites is the again very much like the Mastermind sketch where he's answering the question that was asked previously. Yeah,
yes.
It was just wordplay, just beautiful wordplay. It's really clever. I mean, let's sort of like talk about how put the idea aside and just go how clever the writing was in it, and to maintain that level and be able to sort of like do this one joke that lasted for, I think the audio version that you sent out on the link, Ash, was 7 minutes long. To do one joke for 7 minutes and it's still to actually land. It's a bit nonsense, but it still land as it goes along.
Yeah.
You could do that on stage just as a one-man show in front of an audience, and you'd have them howling with the right performer who's able to land each of those lines.
Yeah, as long as it's not near a tomato market. And they might take the urge.
I think you can do, like we were discussing the other day with doing a performance. You'd written a poem, and the first thing that I saw was how the person would move on the stage. And it's like with this one, I could see how you would get someone talking about reading this book and getting irate about it, and it would be a really good performance.
I see it a lot more as a visual than I do it as a book, as a story. Yeah, I can actually see the visual in my mind, but I would be leaving little tiny little
signposts.
Little signposts, yes, comical signposts. Absolutely.
Joke coming.
Well,
Brothers, bit of a Bugs Bunny.
No, not that.
Actually, now I've mentioned Bugs Bunny, the Warner Brothers cartoons, particularly the ones way back in sort of like going through the 30s and 40s, used to do wonderful visual jokes like that were always that kind of metaphor pun style thing, and they used to do them as a visual representation quite a lot.
Yeah, they did. I'm just seeing Jacques Tati, but that's my thing. And remind me, I need to see a Jacques Tati film again. I've not seen one for about 2 years.
You see why Ash makes these lists? We end up having these conversations, and we go on little tangents, and we end up writing lists of stuff that we need to go and look at and read. And
So there's 2 Jacques Tati films. There's The Holiday, and I've just remembered Mon Oncle.
Mon Oncle. That sounds familiar. They both sound familiar, actually.
Yeah.
Did he do one about a bicycle as well?
I think bicycles come up very often in most of his films.
Was
it called La Bicyclette or something like that?
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, I've not. If he has, I've not seen it, but it is coming to mind.
Right, so I think our takeaway from this story is that I shouldn't be trusted to pick stories. Is that pretty much...
No, I'm glad you did, because it creates a discussion, doesn't it?
Yeah, great discussion. Yeah,
Yes.
how shit I am at picking stories.
I was asked in an
that,
interview once when I was they were talking about my writing, and they said if you had a new writer coming up to you, and they said, what should I read to inspire me to write? My answer is always the complete opposite of what you would normally read.
Mm.
You need to see the stuff that isn't you.
Yeah, you do.
To get it into your head and open up those parts of your mind that can inform what you're going to do next. Because I bet a pound to a penny, Sean, that you're going to write a piece that's probably going to have a number of these little wordplays going on.
No, but it will make me more mindful about leading the viewer into the place that I want to lead them to. And leaving little signposts. It's always a good technique.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. Right, so that's our takeaway is actually, like you say, not that you shouldn't pick stories again, because that wouldn't be right, Ash, because that would be putting it all on me, which isn't right. Okay, that was my pick next. All right. So things to take away from this is more signposting. That they tell you not to go looking for the laugh, but sometimes you have to go looking for the laugh. You have to ask for the laugh occasionally, I think, and I think that comes away from it.
Yeah, when you're cooking something, it doesn't just appear. You have to, there's ingredients, and you need some ingredients for, otherwise it just comes from nowhere.
Ooh, throwing in the fucking cooking metaphors there. I like that. I like that a lot.
Cheesemaker. What do you expect?
Well, yeah. So prize-winning cheesemaker.
Prize-winning. And actually, I think you actually didn't you do some? Did you cook on the Orient Express?
No, but it was a similar train, a steam train. Yes. I think we went from Crewe through to somewhere up north.
Oh,
yeah.
Orient Express.
And that was 8 years ago.
Yeah,
and I still have marks on the inside of my arm from the oven that didn't on a steam train, which was going from side to side.
Yeah,
the amount of times it burnt the inside of my arm, I can't tell you. Yeah,
really, because I've been on one of those where they sort of like do catering for you whilst you're on train. Really love the food and didn't give a shit about the people who were serving it, and now I feel guilty. Now I feel like the world's biggest twat.
No.
Is it the Latent Orient Express? Is that what it was?
It's what?
The Latent Orient Express.
Yeah, that'll do.
Mm. So you've done that whole kind of science in the kitchen stuff, haven't you? Where you it's the finesse rather than me, which is just I'll grate some cheese into my beans with a bit of garlic. That the science
euphemism
when you've got to cook. No, I mean you should. Well, actually, it could be.
Yeah.
But it's like with you, Ash. You became a very good baker because you were doing some research for some books, or you were just doing research for some fiction. And
I've been doing research.
Make some wonderful cakes.
Yeah, and now I've been doing research on serial killing, and I don't think any fucker's safe.
Yeah. Certainly the cornflakes.
I'm waiting for you to write a book about being a brickie because I've got some work for you around my house.
Yeah, I will.
Love it.
Col.
Yes, what have we got next week? Before I am going to mention, before I start, just go and find this one because I can't remember who did the writing of it. Sean, I want to hear a bit more about, because that cheese I bought from you at Christmas was absolutely bloody wonderful. And I'm not the maddest connoisseur of such things, but it was just wonderful. And I actually ate the entire block in 2 days because I just couldn't get my hands off it.
Can you remember what it was?
It was the creamy Lancashire.
Oh, creamy Lancashire. So creamy Lancashire is the original Lancashire cheese. This goes back to 1190. And the reason that it's so creamy, and this is quite good, the reason that it's so creamy is that really it was originated by farmers' wives who had an excess of milk and just made a curd and left it on the sink overnight. And then the next day, because it wasn't big enough to make a cheese, she'd make another one the next morning, which was really fresh. And they've mixed them together. And that's what makes a really creamy cheese. And Lancashire is the only county in the country to bring these. It's called a multi-day cur to bring them together, and that's why I guess you loved that cheese. So it's very historic.
That's made it even better, actually, in my mind. And I need to get hold of some more. So, can you tell us where I can get it?
Well, there's a chain of supermarkets that cater for either people that can't really afford to go to proper supermarkets, or for the army, the police, the nurses, and for the services as well. Right. And it's called the Company Shop.
Right.
So they sell all my cheeses. Then I sell at some Morrisons, but it's only selected Morrisons. They don't even tell me which ones. But then I sell through delis, farm shops, and I always say to people, if you want it in your place, tell them that you want Artisan Farm, and they'll come and find me.
Brilliant. Thank you. So Artisan Farm is what we need to all be asking for. We need to do some sort of campaign. I'm fed up of signing petitions against bloody politicians and getting TV personalities sacked. I want to do it to get something positive, like
absolutely,
this cheese into my local shop.
Must be Sean, the way you were describing that has just made me really fucking want some cheese now. I was listening to a guy the other day who was it was some comedian on Netflix, and he was saying he'd reached 50, and he was listening to people who were sort of like in the 20s saying, "Oh, we're going to go out tonight, we're going to get fucked up, and do you want to come with us and get fucked up?" But he said, "I'm 50, and at 50, all you want is cheese, and that will fuck you up." And yeah, absolutely spot on. No, it sounds absolutely brilliant. Right, I will be looking out for some of that.
Good.
And yeah. And
it was absolutely great. And when those markets open up again, I'll definitely be hurtling over to get some more of it, because it was great.
Yeah, and the people of Manchester really appreciate it too. And because the markets are big at Christmas, and there's lots and lots of stalls, but I don't think many people sell true artisan products, so it's really appreciated.
Yeah, you're right. When I first started going to those markets, I only actually go to the markets to eat cheese, because you just go around and try all the cheese. You don't have to buy any. You just that's the unusual thing. You're the first person I've ever bought cheese from at one of the markets. I normally just go and sample them all. But it was so nice that I had to. It was like, because I remember you weren't there when I first turned up at the stall. I turned up on the Friday night, met the cheese, and went, I'm coming back the next day for some of this. Really, there's something in the way that it's made that sets certain receptors off in my brain.
Good.
That were like, that's what that's doing. Then I went and tried some curry cheese and nearly punched the guy for making curry cheese. It was awful.
Nah, well, long may they exist, because they just drive everyone to us.
Right. Anyway, now we've just a bit of a cheese tangent there. Just went something. Right, what are we reading next week, Ash? We're going to be reading The Werewolf by Clements Houseman, 1896.
Wow.
Don't know how much it costs, so...
No, it's public domain.
Hold on, who's it by?
Clements Houseman. I reckon you're going to absolutely loathe it. That's one of the reasons I picked it,
I hate it for its fucking... Right, the author, or this has come from to us from translation, hasn't it?
Is a Jewish writer, is he, I guess?
It's one of the weird women from the Victorian age. Women used to write an awful lot of strange horror and science fiction tales back in the Victorian and Edwardian times. And they don't get a lot of credit for it. So I kind of champion it every so often. They're not usually very good, but I will champion them anyway. So...
Was it Clement or Clementine?
Clements.
Clements.
Yeah, Clements Houseman.
Well, that's a fucking stupid name. Right, yeah. Clements Houseman, The Werewolf, right.
The Werewolf, yes.
Good, thank you. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
There you go.
I had been looking forward to my story. Thank you both for pissing on it. But from such a great height as well.
I think you got a nice balance, to be perfectly honest with you. I think you got Sean there who was kind of Mr. Manning it, and you got me there that was animating it and all that kind of stuff.
Ash, from 0 to 10, where do you put it?
With that one, I'd have stuck it a good solid 8.
Do you?
I thought there were nice layers underneath it with sort of like the whole, we've got these communism overtones in there. I thought it provided a good lesson for writing so that you're writing effectively and you're not distracting the reader from the middle of the text. And I thought that because it's got Philip K. Dick's stamp of authority on it, did I just say Dick stamp? I did.
You did say Dick stamp, yeah.
Anyway, you've got Philip K.
And I
Dick's
think
stamp.
you need to trademark that, get a patent, and go to Dragon's Den with that one.
Yeah, here's my Dick stamp. Yeah. So yeah, I would have stuck it definitely up there as an 8, just because for me it was sort of like a fun piece of storytelling, almost like I was listening to a joke. Whereas Castle of Otranto that we looked at the other week, that was like that was like somebody sticking a rusty knitting needle into your ear, but without the fun aspect of it.
That was like, I mean, that was well signposted all the way through. It's just all the signposts were written in a language you couldn't understand and had drawings on them that didn't look like anything in particular.
Oh my God, sounds like a Tom Waits song.
Oh, you would have absolutely. Oh, Tom Waits, I love Tom Waits. But anyway, sorry.
So do I.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been listening to him almost non-stop for the last 3 weeks for some reason. Good. I got onto Bone Machine and I just can't stop listening to it. But yeah, it was dreadful. I mean, you thought this one was bad. You would have absolutely. It was just, you know, though it had a lot of things in it. For me, this one, I'd have started this one off at a 6, but after the discussion that we've had about it, I definitely pushed it up to a good 7.5, only because of the discussion.
Yeah, the discussion did put some better bones on it than I did initially. So yeah, it's improved its score with me, definitely.
Where did it start for you, Sean?
I probably started at about a 4 for me, to be honest. But then, you know, of course, somebody of you're a lecturer in literature. Obviously, you know exactly what you're speaking about, and
yeah.
Take it, Ash. Take it.
so you know, put in your terms, it makes a lot more sense.
Right? Yeah. Sean Wilson says that. I know what I'm talking about.
There you go. We'll put that one on the next book cover.
It's good on the next tattoo. Yeah, it's good on the next. Yeah.
Well,
Sean, thank you, sir. It's been a pleasure.
You're welcome. I really enjoyed it.
Good, I'm glad. And if we invited you back and we asked you to pick a short story, would you be inclined to do so? You can say no, by the way, because it'd be fucking funny anyway.
Yeah, I'll have a good think about that.
Yeah, if you find whilst you're doing your Ernest Hemingway, actually, that'd be great.
Actually, yeah, I'm looking at Men Without Women right now. The book right there. So
I've seen that website.
It's only a little thing.
Only a little one. Yeah, you know. We don't have a sealant on it. We just kind of like we work out when we can record depending on the back.
Yeah, but what I do, because then I'm busy through the week and I've got to find some time to give it some thought.
We're in the magic world like you are, Sean. You know, this is the world of internet, television type stuff. Time means nothing to us.
People think we just sit at home playing battleships.
Oh, that reminds me, B2.
It's a hit.
Yeah, absolutely. That'd be great if you. We'll arrange another date for that. We'll go into next month or something like that. And we'll arrange another date for that. Please come back because you've been a lot of fun and a lot of insight as well. To be perfectly honest with you, because it's great getting that different perspective on it rather than being, say, we've got the lecturer down at the bottom here, you've got me that's just desperate to be an academic but not really getting there, and then we got yourself as going, I read it as a reader, and that's, you know, and that gives us all the different bases covered.
True.
It's great.
True.
Yeah.
Good. All right, guys.
Brilliant. Thanks a lot, people.
Thank you so much.
See you again.
Yeah, thanks ever so much. See you soon.
Cheers.
Bye bye.